Hello, my name is Uri Monte Gonzalez, and today I will be presenting my video analysis of the Count of Monte Cristo, written by renowned French author Alexandre Dumas. This novel is considered one of the greatest adventure stories ever written, but it is not just a thrilling tale of treasure and disguise. It explores deep and complex themes such as revenge, justice, betrayal, forgiveness, and personal transformation. The story follows Edmond Dantes, a young sailor whose life is completely destroyed by jealousy and betrayal. He becomes the mysterious and powerful Count of Monte Cristo, a man who seems to control events, people, and even fate itself. One of the most fascinating aspects of the story is how it combines adventure with psychology and philosophy. It asks questions like, what is justice? How far should revenge go? Can any person change their destiny? And above all, how does suffering shape who we are? As the Edmond Dantes reflects in the novel Wait and Hope, these words capture the essence of the story: patience, endurance, and faith that life can change even in the darkest circumstances. Author's information. Alexandre Dumas was born in 1802 in France. He became one of the most famous writers of his time, known for his ability to create exciting, dramatic, and adventurous stories. Some of his famous works include The Three Musketeers, a story full of sword fights, friendship, and loyalty. One of the most famous lines is "All for one and one for all." The Man in the Iron Mask, which explores identity, secrecy, and betrayal. And 20 Years After, which continues the adventures of the Three Musketeers as they face new challenges and the passage of time. Dumas often explores themes as loyalty, honor, revenge, and justice. His stories are full of strong characters, fast-moving plots, and emotional conflicts. Many of his works have been adapted into movies, TV shows, and plays, proving that his stories remain timeless. Dumas' writing style is dramatic, with an unexpected twist that keeps the reader engaged. Even when reading about betrayal, imprisonment, or revenge, his storytelling makes us feel every emotion of the characters, making the story unforgettable. Historical background. The Count of Monte Cristo is set in a turbulent time in French history. After the fall of Napoleon Bonaparte, the former French emperor, France was politically unstable, with constant tensions between Napoleon's supporters and the restored royal government. This historical context is important because it explains why Edmond could be falsely accused of treason, and his enemies, motivated by jealousy and greed, used the political situation to their advantage. This shows how personal ambition, corruption, and political instability can completely destroy an innocent life. The story demonstrates that during this time, justice was not always fair. Innocent people could be imprisoned, while the guilty prospered. As Edmond reflects later, I have been condemned without trial, judged without crime. This sets the stage for his desire to take control of his fate and seek justice and revenge on his own terms. Setting. The story takes place in various locations, each reflecting a stage of Edmond's life. The first major setting is Marseille, the city where Edmond begins his journey. It is a place of youth, hope, and beginnings. Here's where Edmond Dantes is a successful sailor in the Pharaon, loved by his families and engaged to Mercedes, the woman he adores. The Chateau If, a grim, isolated prison, where Edmond is locked away for years. It symbolizes suffering, isolation, and personal transformation. Edmond's time here teaches him patience, intelligence, and resilience. He reflects, no human power can break a man's mind. It's only through suffering that the mind can grow. Paris, a city of wealth, influence, and strategy. This is where Edmond, now the Count of Monte Cristo, executes his plans for revenge. Paris represents control, power, and social sophistication, showing Edmond's mastery over society and human nature. Each setting is carefully chosen by Dumas to reflect Edmond's inner journey, moving from innocent to suffering, from knowledge to power, and ultimately wisdom and self-understanding. Plot. This will be the plot of the entire story, summarized a lot. At the beginning of the story, Edmond Dantes is a young sailor with a bright future. He is about to be promoted to captain and marry Mercedes, a woman of great beauty and kindness. Life seems perfect, but jealousy and envy are already plotting against him. Fernand Mondego, who desires Mercedes to be his loved one, becomes envious of Edmond Dantes' happiness. Danglars, jealous of Edmond's career success, conspires to ruin him. And Caderousse, and others, motivated by greed, fear, or laziness, also play a part. Together, they falsely accuse Edmond of treason and being allied to Napoleon, and he is imprisoned in the Chateau If, a fortress on a small, isolated island. In prison, Edmond meets Abbe Faria, a older prisoner who becomes his mentor. Faria teaches Edmond languages, history, philosophy, and strategy. He also tells him about a hidden treasure on the island of Monte Cristo, saying knowledge is the key to power and patience is the key to freedom. After years in prison, Edmond executes a daring escape using the knowledge and hope Faria gave him before he died. He discovers the treasure, becoming extremely wealthy. With this wealth, he creates the persona of the Count of Monte Cristo, a mysterious, elegant, and imitating figure. Returning to society, Edmond begins carefully planning his revenge. In this time, after years of Edmond being in prison, Fernand Mondego married Mercedes in Edmond's absence. Danglars has become wealthy, but he is morally corrupt, and Caderousse allowed greed and laziness to dictate his life. Edmond punished them in creative, precise, and morally revealing ways, showing their guilt and corruption. For instance, Danglars, obsessed with money, loses everything due to his own greed. Fernand's betrayal and ambition leads to ruin and despair. Even as Edmond executes his plans, he begins to reflect on morality and the consequences of revenge. He says revenge, though sweet, is never without a cost. Pain spreads, and the innocent sometimes suffer. By the end of the novel, Edmond realizes that true happiness cannot be achieved through vengeance alone. He learns the importance of forgiveness, hope, and a new beginning. Leaving behind the Count of Monte Cristo's identity to embrace life with wisdom and compassion. Character analysis. The first character is Edmond Dantes, the main character. He begins as an innocent, kind, and trusting man. Betrayal transforms him into a clever, strategic, and sometimes cold figure, driven by revenge. Yet he retains the capacity for love, hope, and forgiveness, which emerges in the end. He reflects, I am not proud, yet that life is mine again. Next character is Fernand Mondego. Fernand Mondego represents jealousy, selfishness, and most importantly of all, betrayal. His desire for Mercedes leads to Edmond's imprisonment and eventually his own downfall, leading him to commit his own suicide. Next character is Danglars. Danglars embodies greed and ambition. He betrays Edmond for personal gain, only to face the consequences of his own corruption. The next one is Mercedes. Mercedes, the old fiancée of Edmond Dantes and the wife of Fernand Mondego, symbolizes love, loyalty, and emotional suffering. Even after Edmond disappears, she remains compassionate and morally upright. And last character that I will be analyzing is Abbe Faria, the mentor of Edmond Dantes, and he is an old prisoner. He mostly acts, like I said, as a mentor and father figure to Edmond, and he provides education, wisdom, and hope, teaching Edmond that intelligence and patience are more powerful than force. Side characters like Bildford, Eloise, and Maximilian deepen the story by showing how ambition, greed, and loyalty affects people differently. Symbolisms. The first symbol, and one of the most important symbols of the story, and where Edmond Dantes changes himself and becomes a new person, evolves into the Count of Monte Cristo, is that Château If. Its symbolisms are suffering, isolation, and mental growth. Edmond's imprisonments represents the challenges that shape a character, and you can see it in the story as he demands to speak to the warden, and all of the guards think he's crazy, then throw him into the dungeon, and for years he suffers, and he begins to think that his fate is to die a lone man until Ave Faria appears, and he and Ave decide to break out. The treasure represents power, opportunity, and transformation. Wealth becomes a tool for justice and revenge. Thanks to Ave Faria, Edmond Dantes became the Count of Monte Cristo, and with the wealth, he plans or strategizes his revenge against his enemies and deeply changes the life of many characters, even if it's direct or indirectly changes them, he changed them in some way. And this really shows how deep and thorough his plans were for revenge. And looking at the image in front of us, you can see Edmond Dantes faced with the treasure, and his shadow isn't Edmond Dantes, it is the Count of Monte Cristo. And now, the Count of Monte Cristo's identity, which symbolizes control, justice, and mystery, allowing Edmond to influence events and people with precision, with thorough planning. Ave Faria, with thanks to his teachings, he becomes this man who seeks revenge, ignoring everything else. It's so thorough and so complete that you see it in the story. From a man who is broken to a man with a goal, with an ideal. And it's so thorough that when reading the story, you would get surprised, and it's just so thorough. These symbols show Edmond's inner development beyond his external actions. Key themes. The first key theme is revenge versus forgiveness. Edmond learns revenge and may satisfy his anger for those people who falsely accused him, who betrayed his trust and made him a miserable man in prison. But true peace comes from forgiveness. Another theme is justice, the main theme of the story. The story asks whether justice comes from law, society, or personal action. Edmond says, I am the instrument of God's justice, that he thinks he is God's pawn to act and give what deserves these people who lie, who betray, and steal, and ruined his life and ruined many others. Another key plot is betrayal. Betrayal transforms a person, forcing growth, revenge, or both. This is shown with Edmond Dantes. The betrayal forced him to transform into the Count of Monte Cristo, and with that transformation, he began his revenge. Transformation is another key theme. Edmond evolves from a naive young man into a powerful, intelligent, morally complex figure seeking revenge and justice for those who wronged him. Hope and redemption. This is shown in the end of the story, even after his suffering. The life offers love, friendship, and new beginnings. Edmond suffers years in prison, wrongly accused, and seeks out his revenge. And during it, he realizes that he could grow past wanting revenge. That isn't his entire goal. And in the end, you can see he is a new man shaped by love and kindness, and will continue being a man who offers help and support. Motives. A motive is imprisonment and freedom. Edmond moves from being physically trapped to mentally, socially, and morally free. Another one is wealth and power. The money that he gains thanks to Ave Faria is a tool for influence, justice, and revenge. But it is also a tool for hope and love, and to give kindness to others. And the last one is hidden identity. Edmond uses multiple identities to navigate society, influence events, and execute plans. Edmond wasn't just the Count of Monte Cristo. You could have seen it. You saw it in the novel. He becomes a priest to trick his enemies early on, and many others, just to trick them, to see them, to analyze them before taking his steps, showing how perception shapes reality. Illusions. The novel contains religious and philosophical illusion. Like I said before, Edmond often acts like an agent of divine justice, thinking he is a pawn of God who is basically taking the actions of God into his own hands, either him believing that he is making their actions happen earlier than they should have, or if they weren't going to happen, he is going to take it into his own hands. He punishes the guilty while considering morality. These illusions connect the story to ideas of morality, responsibility, and divine judgment, deepening its meaning of the story. Lastly, we have the conclusion. In conclusion, The Count of Monte Cristo is a thrilling, complex, and morally rich story. It combines adventure with profound lessons about human nature, morality, and society. Throughout Edmond Dantes' journey, the novel shows how betrayal can shape and transform a person, how it transformed him into the Count of Monte Cristo and shaped him to become a man seeking revenge, a man seeking justice, and how revenge may satisfy temporarily, but cannot bring lasting peace, and how forgiveness, hope, and personal growth are ultimately stronger than anger and hatred. It is a story that combines adventure, emotion, morality, and history, making it not just exciting, but deeply meaningful. As Edmond Dantes himself says at the end of the novel, wait and hope. This simple line reminds us that no matter how dark life may seem, patience and perseverance can lead to redemption, justice, and new beginnings. For anyone who loves adventure, complex characters, and moral lessons, this novel remains one of the most important and influential stories ever written, with it being also a pretty long novel. All of the abbreviations have the same feel to it, powerful enough to change a person's thoughts, make you excited, make you seem sad or lose hope, or you can gain hope just reading it. It is all a wonderful experience reading the book. Even though it isn't for me, I will recommend it to many other people to read it, as it is just an important piece of literature, and for many novelists out there who are searching for inspiration for books, this is a great inspiration on its own. This just shows how Alexander Dumas was a master at writing, a master at setting up a plot so big that you wouldn't expect it. That is it. And thank you for watching my video.